Welcome to Loving Me Before I Love You with Tammy Nicole, the podcast dedicated to you loving and putting yourself first. Others have come first in your life for years, and you know it's time for that to change. You're about to be empowered to set healthy boundaries, confidently have hard conversations, unapologetically put yourself first, and live the peaceful life you deserve. Remember, self-love is essential, and loving yourself sets the stage for every other love in your life. So get ready to embrace self-love like never before with your host, Coach Tammy Nicole.
Hey, it is Transformation Tuesday over here at Loving Me Before I Love You, the podcast where we stop performing and start healing, and we choose ourselves on purpose. Today we're talking about freedom, but not the freedom that comes from a vacation or a paycheck or a relationship status, or even finally getting everything that you've been praying for. We're talking about the kind of freedom that starts on the inside. What if freedom isn't about having any responsibilities? What if freedom isn't about doing whatever you want, whenever you want? What if freedom is actually having the courage to live in alignment with who you truly are, instead of who you've been expected to be, and sometimes pretending to be? So many of us carry an invisible chain, the chain of people pleasing, the chain of guilt, the chain of perfectionism, the chain of proving our worth. We also have the chain of living according to someone else's definition of success, happiness, and love. And the truth is this: you can be successful and still not feel free. And you can be surrounded by people and still feel trapped. So you can have the life you prayed for and still feel disconnected from your authentic self. Today's conversation is an invitation to examine where freedom truly lives in your life and where it still may be missing. So too many of us have allowed ourselves to believe freedom is a thing, it's a being. And we're going to discuss how freedom really looks and how it can look different for each of us. Because freedom is finally being able to say no without guilt for some, and for others, it's healing from the past pain, setting boundaries, leaving survival mode, or giving themselves permission to simply become someone new. If you've ever felt stuck between who you've been and who you're becoming, this conversation is for you. And today I have a guest. My guest is Mr. Alpha Mshihiri, and he is going to be with us discussing this level of freedom. How many of us are not actually living in a freed mindset or a place of freedom in how we live our lives? So we're going to dive in, and I want you to join us. Please sit back, relax, and enjoy this listen. Welcome to the show, Mr. Alpha.
Thank you very much, Ms. Tammy. I truly appreciate it being here. It's an honor, and thank you for giving me this beautiful platform you've created for your amazing people.
Thank you. So when you hear the topic of the show, what is the first thing that comes to mind for you?
Yes, but before I go there, I just want to say something to the listeners. You know, Tammy is an amazing person, and she's shown up every single week here, giving us some amazing things that we can actually take, apply, and improve the quality of the lives we live. And I'm so honored to be in her company, especially knowing that she has crossed 100 episodes. That's not an easy task. That means there are some days that she didn't feel like, but she showed up. She was exercising her freedom. There are some days she might have been hurt, but yet she showed up. And for that, I want to honor her for that. So take your time, just drop a comment for her, appreciate her for that, because sometimes we take things for granted. We forget that the people who continues to pour in our lives also needs to hear from us, even though they know who they are, but yet it makes a difference. So drop a comment for her, share this episode, and many wonderful ones that she had done in the past to your friends so that her voice can be heard in so many places. And that being said, let's return to that question. So for me, freedom, uh, I've kind of started living my life pretty much borrowing from the scriptures. It's a place where I kind of find reference in each and everything else. And when I think of a freedom, especially when you told me this topic, and I was like, wow, this is a very interesting topic. And right away, I went for a walk and started thinking of this concept of freedom. And it went to that place where there's a scripture that it says, if you know the truth shall set you free. And that makes sense to me. So when I started thinking of a freedom is not just anything, but it's related to the truth, because it's the truth that sets us free. But then the question comes, what is the truth? Because then if we don't know, we might think the truth is the job you want to have. We might think the truth probably is that relationship you need to have. The truth, it might be that performance, that income, that house, that assets, and everything else. And none of those things are a problem. Only if you make them your truth. So when I think of that stuff, that's kind of where I went and took that journey. And then I went to that conversation where Jesus talks about this spirit of truth. He tells us and elaborate further. He just didn't stop there. He gives us even the meaning of what it is. He said, the spirit of remembrance. So to answer that question, when I think of freedom, I kind of start thinking about this concept of what am I remembering about myself? The performance, the income, the asset, the resources, and all of these things that are outwardly, or am I remembering myself? You started beautifully. Actually, you touched base on that. So I'll kind of hang it there for now, and maybe the listeners can start asking themselves, what are they remembering when they think about themselves? Are they remembering about that performance?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, when I hear the question as a whole, how do I redefine freedom on my own terms? It, for me, is an indicator that freedom is not just a standard, right? So many of us have created standards off of definitions of words and have decided that it means simply to not be bound, right? And not to be stuck in a place. And so when I say, how am I going to redefine it on my own terms? For me, I think it's more about how do I get to a place within my life that I start to identify areas of freedom that is not just based upon being stuck in a place, because so many of us get stuck in places mentally, right? Your mind continues to replay, rewrite stories, stay stuck in a spot where you can't actually move forward. So it's like, I remember being a kid, my mom said, do not be a prisoner of your own thoughts. Sometimes we can become prisoners, which is no freedom, right? You're stuck there. If you think about prison, you're locked down, you're put into a position that you don't necessarily want to be in. And so many of us, our thoughts have held us captive and not allowed us to soar and be free. So for me, when it's like it's based upon my own terms, simply says I have the pen to write the story.
And I think that's, to me, so that's the definition of the truth. Because the truth is not dependent on, when we think of the truth in general, going back to the scriptures, the truth is often is something that has happened. So the question comes is, when we take what you're explaining, that place that I'm saying that I'm free, to me, I look at it and say, okay, if I look at myself and say, my freedom is if I have this job, if I go on this vacation, then I'm going to be free. So I'm actually binding myself to something else that I have no control. I might plan for that vacation, but it might not happen for some things that have nothing to do with me. I might plan that job, that position, that income. And if I do that, there I am no longer free because my peace is dependent on that. Versus what you were talking about is I'm writing my own story. My freedom is on my own willingness. I'm writing it myself. That's my truth. And that's why I see the freedom, the ability to exercise the truth, not based on outside appearance, but based on your own terms. That I feel like I can say, I'm, I feel amazing. And my amazement have nothing to do with because somebody told me or because something happened. It's because I choose to feel this way despite of all things. And that's why I kind of come to that place, that cycle where the scripture says, if you know the truth shall set you free.
Yeah, and I agree with that. When you used to hear that scripture often, and it's more, I used to always change and say, it's not just, the truth shall set you free, because everybody would just say that, oh, the truth gonna set you free. You better tell the truth. And it's not the truth will set you free, period. It's the truth that will set you free. And so many times, you think about it, people used to use it as a kid and say, if you tell the truth, you'll get out of this situation. Just tell the truth, things will happen better for you. And it's like, I could tell the truth, but if you don't know it to be true, I'm still going to be bound in these consequences. Right. So it utterly goes back to what you know. And truth is really based upon the person listening to it. It's based upon, some things are black and white, right? Like when you look at the court system, you look at, the different things, and it's like, well, the truth is you'll never know somebody's true motive behind doing any crime they ever did, right? You'll never know. It doesn't matter what they say. The reality is you'll never know. And because you weren't there and you're not them, right? Even if you're
And you don't know what
present,
was in their mind.
that's what I'm saying. Even if you're present, you're not them. So you can never tell what they were thinking in the moment that everything took place. But if you are free in you, a lot of those things never ever matter. But I think when we talk about orchestrating freedom on your own terms, it's just like negating the thoughts, wills, and desires of other people and focus on you. What does freedom simply mean to you? For one person, it may be the ability to do everything they want to do without questioning somebody or without getting permission from someone. And for somebody else, it may be something as simple as being able to say no and not feel guilty about it. Because a lot of us say no to people and we be like, dang, let me figure out how I can get this done. I don't really want to do it, but it's for so and so, and I love them dearly. So let me figure out how I can do it. And so that means you're not free to just do what you want to do. You are still conditioned to people please. And having a people pleasing spirit is not freedom.
That's very true. And I like how you earlier started when you talk about this mental bondage, because majority of us, I'll take an example. I have a very good friend of mine. He wanted to, he's a clinical researcher or something like that. And he wanted this particular position really bad. And he got the position and he was paying him very well, traveling and staying in hotels. After 6 months, he got exhausted. That which he thought will set him free and give him the lifestyle he wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Now he became a prisoner. And he struggled for it for almost a year. Eventually, he started having this mental tension or with mental challenges in essence. And he had to be relieved himself from that position because his performance, he couldn't perform to the car, not because he didn't have the skills or anything else. Mentally, he was in bondage in some sense. And so therefore, when we talk, to me, when I started looking at this concept of freedom, it begins here in the mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it becomes even problem when we substantiate our being to something outside, because we can't really control the circumstances no matter how much we plan. So if I start attaching my being, whether in a relationship, professional, personal, and all that stuff based on something outside of myself, then I'm actually going to be bound mentally based on certain factors that are happening outside of myself. Versus when I started living in my own terms, as you have said it changes the perspective on how I approach it. I approach it as like whether it rains or it doesn't, I am who I choose myself to be because I can control my emotions. I can control my thoughts. But then it requires freedom is not free. It places responsibility on yourself. I am responsible for my thoughts. If somebody says something negative to me, I choose either to engage and therefore I'm a slave of that conversation, or I choose to maintain peace that I want. It's not about winning. It's about actually what do I want under the circumstances that sets me free. It's not tying me to something I can't control. I can't control that person's response. They might be my child, they might be my partner, but I can't control how they behave. And if I'm tied to their performance, I am not free at all.
I agree. I also, the thought came to me that so many of us are not free in being able to speak what they think and feel to people, right? So they will withhold a thought, a feeling, an expression because of who they're talking to, versus learning to say what you want to say, get every essence of the thought out, but learn how to say it. Be it you're saying it with tact, be it that you're saying it on a lower education level because maybe they don't understand, be it that you are expressing it with a little tude. However, you need to express it. I think that we should have freedom in saying what's on our mind. Too many of us withhold our expression of what we think and how we feel for the sake of other people, what they will do, what they think about it, how they'll respond, what's their reaction. Like everything is always based on them instead of based on themselves. I'm feeling a certain kind of way. I need to be able to share that with you without feeling like I can't. They're going to be mad, you know, because that's definitely not freedom. And I think we miss being free and just the essence of owning our own stuff. Like, own it. I don't like that. Like, even if it's as simple as, do you like the shirt I got? No, I don't like it. I don't like it. You like it? That's great. I don't. And being okay with just saying it. Like, we're so put into a square box on what is acceptable. I think appropriateness is one thing, but you have to be able to feel free enough to just simply share what you think, what you want, what you don't want, and live your life according to what? Your own terms.
And I think I completely agree with that perspective because, again, it goes back to if my peace of mind is dependent on you to be at peace or to be in an agreement with me. And so therefore, I am not going to be able to express myself because when I'm thinking in a place where if I express it is not going to sit well with you, I'm going to withhold that. And therefore that I am not truly free no matter how successful I appear to be, no matter how talkative, no matter what characters people see outside of myself. But if I am always hesitating, questioning, and measuring my conversation, it creates that. And I think the challenge is, or the balance becomes harder because a lot of times we have these situations where people saying, people are going to think that I'm arrogant, or people are going to think my mouth. I mean, I'm just saying. I have my younger son. He just speaks his mind. It doesn't matter. And sometimes I'll listen. He says something. I'm like, oops, but he's speaking his mind. And because growing up, we kept encouraging him to say what is in his mind. And most of us, we're taught to be polite.
Yes.
That's the difficult part, because being polite is not free at all, because I am going to please you in expense of my own freedom. I'm going to be enslaved because you can't take what I'm saying, or you can't respect what I'm saying. And so therefore I have to please you. And I think that's kind of where the challenge a lot of people are struggling with. And for me, I struggled for a while until I understand this concept of free, where I am able to say something, not because I want to hurt you, not because I disagreeing with you, it's because I'm speaking that which I know to be true for me.
Yeah, you speak your own truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like that dress.
And I think people need to lean more into the space of accepting what someone says for what it is and not changing the narrative for yourself. In other words, if you simply listen to what someone is trying to express and not make it a you thing, not make it personal, it would make it a lot easier to communicate. Having hard conversations is a skill set. You know, it's a thing. You got to learn how to have a hard conversation. And hard conversation simply just says, you may not like what you're about to hear, but it's necessary, right? It's the other person's truth, it's the other person's needs. It's things that make them feel a certain kind of way that maybe you've done, you know. Having a hard conversation is not indicative of you being a horrible person. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a conversation you would wish not to have. But if we take hard conversations and make them normal, normalize them to being everyday discussions, it wouldn't be that hard. But because we are avoiders and we escape artists and we do not embrace.
Wow, today's episode is a good one. I know you're enjoying it, and we'll get back to it shortly. Just wanted to take a quick break to let you know that Tammy would love for you to share any questions, comments, or topic ideas you have with her. All you have to do is send them to her in an email to podcast@IamTammyNicole.com. Thank you, and without further ado, let's get back into today's show.
Our freedom in saying who we are and what we feel and what we want, we tend to run the opposite direction. And then when we can't run anymore, it's like being in a maze of life and conversation, and you're running and you're like, oh, that's a dead wall. Oh, can't go that way. Oh, gotta go this way. And you're, bumping into walls all the time. And those walls are the lack of your freedom. Those walls are the boxes of keeping you in the box of doing things other people's way.
Yeah.
And it's not until you exit the maze that you get excited. It's not until you like, oh my God, I'm in this free space. I've done it. I've beat it. And I'm super excited. And that to me is what having freedom, rewriting it, redefining it on your own terms really looks like, because we need it.
No, I mean, I call it there is a cost of not being free, and as a society, we see this cost whether we choose to admit it or not. People are more than ever before. People are more frustrated than ever before. People are more impulsive than ever before. Is because they feel choked with all the prisons that they create for themselves. A prison you create at work because you got to act in a proper way that you call proper because you want to please your boss, please your listen. And I'm not saying people should disrespect or disregard the procedures, processes, or guidelines that are providing at workplace or in any particular environment. It's just I should be able to exist in them without being bound by them, in a sense that my performance is 100%. I can be myself and still perform at the best, consistent with those. Not now I have to be this person in order to perform consistently. A little bit of a twist, but it's just that subtle shift changes everything.
Yeah.
And I think, and sometimes the environment we find ourselves might trying to box us. But I have come to believe over the years, if the environment comes to box us, then we agree with it because of the fear that we have. I have a friend, she works hard, and her boss started telling her, she works Monday to Friday, and the boss was like, oh, come on Saturday. So the first one she said she started volunteering. She said, I'll show up. So I asked her, I said, do you get paid? for that Saturday. He said, no. I'm just helping. And eventually one day I asked, I said, you've been asked to go to work many Saturdays. It's not one, many, almost every weekend you're going to work. And she said, but he gave me that job when I needed the most. I said, no, you are seeing yourself smaller. He didn't hand you a job because he wanted to help you. You qualified.
Right.
He gave you a job because you qualified. She has a colleague, and that colleague, when she leaves at 4:30, she tells everybody, don't call me because that's my me time.
Mm.
On Saturday, it's my me time. I'm like, you have been polite to this idea that you think, and I think that's the issue many people feel. Maybe I don't deserve this. I have to act proper in an experiment. Whether it's in a relationship, I don't deserve this man. I have to act proper so that I can meet his standard. No, I tell my women clients, listen, the Bible says a man left his household. It's not the woman who left. It was the man who left. And if the man left, then he came for you because you are valuable.
Yeah.
And I think
Absolutely.
we needed to start that place where people need to start feeling valued. Yes, you might not be the best performer, you might not be this, but if you start adding the value to yourself, the value will start showing through your character, the way you make decisions and everything else. And therefore, those who thought you were not valuable, eventually they will start seeing you as valuable.
I agree. And that also is a contributing factor to your freedom.
Yeah.
Knowing who you are is the foundation to your freedom because you then move differently. And it's not a space of arrogance, it's a space of certainty. It's not about I'm bigger than you or I'm better than you. It's I am me, period. And this me has value, has worth, has, a sense of belonging to herself that I don't need you to validate me because I validate myself. I don't need you to affirm me because I affirm myself. However, when other people validate you and affirm you, it does feel good, but it's not necessary. Always say you fill your own cup and you allow the things that they put into your cup to overflow you. It should not be what fills you up.
Definitely. And I think as a society, there's many factors that have contributed us to start feeling smaller. And it's time now we are learning more and more of ourselves. Just like you're saying, you got to understand yourself. And I have a lot of clients where they struggle. I call it's kind of a pandemic in an essence where people doesn't feel that they deserve. I call it the pandemic of deservability. People don't feel that they deserve to be beautiful. They deserve to be respected, to be loved. And to me, I like to always start with that. There's a scriptures in the Bible that talks about this concept where it says the children of Israel saw themselves as grasshopper. They saw themselves as grasshopper, and they were seen as such. So the idea of what we see ourselves as, what we speak to ourselves as, is crucial because that which we see ourselves, if I feel like I am not worthy of this or that, I am not capable of this or that, then I am limiting myself. It's just like if I'm sitting here and I keep saying I'm not gonna. If I say I gotta go to maybe there or there, eventually I'm gonna feel the urge of moving. But if I keep saying, I'm not gonna go anywhere. I'm not gonna go anywhere. Eventually, I'm not going to go anywhere. Yeah. Outside, if it's raining and I say, no, today it's raining, I'm not gonna go out. I had a plan, but it's raining. It doesn't make me feel good. At the end of the day, I am not gonna step out. So the truth is the same thing when we start telling ourselves certain things. We start mimic the behavior of the things we tell ourselves. So it's very, very important, I think, in this concept of the freedom. We first, like you mentioned, we have to start identify who we are, because that becomes the anchor that takes us to this place where we are no longer measured against. I'm not saying we should ignore the performance level and everything else, but I am not the performance level. I am the performer who performs consistent with those levels. That's the difference.
Right.
When we're chasing the levels and the accolades and everything else, you're chasing something that is very unstable. But if I chase after myself, that I am worthy, I am capable, I can do
Yeah.
this. Then it's more grounded because it's me that I'm dealing with, not somebody else that I can control.
Facts. Facts. With all that being said, what steps would you tell someone to take in order to reach that point?
Great. For me, like in my approach, I have a process I call a 3I framework. And it's just made of 3 I's or on 3 steps. But it starts with the first step in life. It's you have to identify where you are. I call it idealized. An idealization process is just an idea where you identify where you are in order to define where you need to be. And a lot of times I ask myself, how do I feel? Do I feel happy under the circumstances? I'm not talking to somebody else, I'm talking to myself. Am I happy? No, I am not happy. I feel stressed. I feel frustrated. I've identified the problem. Now I know what it is. It's not something elusive like, oh, my shoulder. Now I know what it is. And then I borrow from this concept. Jesus said, when somebody slapped you on the right cheek, you turn the other cheek. The concept there is about doing the opposite. Normally, if I slap you, I mean, you're gonna react. But he says, turn the other cheek. Do the opposite from the reaction. So if I identify the pain, I call it a slap. Once I identify the slap, I can turn the other cheek. I name the opposite. I feel frustrated. I feel marginalized. That's the feeling. Then I can change. Scripture says, let the weak say I'm strong. So I say, I am better. I have peace. The circumstances might appear chaotic, but I choose to have peace. So that's the first step, identifying what I want in this particular journey. The second big part is I have to personalize it. I have to make it personal. So if peace is that which you want, if feeling joyfulness is what you want, and I start saying, I am joyfulness. I am peace of mind. It looks like it's a lie to begin with, but we lie ourselves all the time. Now, by repeating it, this is the third I, it's iterate. I'm repeating it. The more, every time I feel heavy, I'm going to repeat, I'm feeling, I am happy. I am happy. And I tell people, usually just try it under any circumstances. Just try to take a situation, not who did it, not what happened, how I feel. If we can start changing the way we feel, we become we take dominionship over the emotions that we have about the ideas we carry on. And if you can start making that yourself, the harvest is now is the time that the scripture teaches us. So I have to make it, I am feeling successful. I am feeling at peace. If you repeat that word over and over, even though it feels a lie to begin with, but eventually it becomes real.
Yeah.
And that's the journey that for most of my clients, I take them through that 3-step approach. And often they come like, man, Alpha, that made a big difference. Science agrees with it because it's interact with your pattern of thinking. And you're defining a new path that you're taking. And once you embody on it, eventually you start feeling at peace. And the more you do it, you are strengthening what they call the neural path. And eventually you start behaving from that point of view. That becomes your default response system.
Agreed. I always say, in the Bible, it tells you, as a man thinketh, so is he, right? And so my mother growing up used to say, what's down in the well is going to come out the bucket. And so what's ever rooted in the heart will speak out the mouth, will then turn into what you do on the regular basis. And so you must always change how you think, change how you speak in order to see something different in your behavior. If you don't change those things, you will always be in the cycle that you created because you've already created the pattern. You started that as a kid. If you don't adjust it, if you don't learn something new, if you don't see something different, you will continue in the same patterns that you created when you were young.
Interesting. I would love to talk to your mom.
I would love to talk to her too.
Yeah, she had quite a lot of wisdom there. She had those pieces that she shared with you, because really those are the life nuggets, I call them. That we say them, but when we think about them, when we say them, they make a difference.
They do. So and I'm glad that I remember them to this day.
No, that's good. I mean, she was a very good woman, so definitely she did a wonderful job. But I mean, I think overall, in all of the conversation that we've had, I think it boils back to, who do I say I am? And I like that question Jesus asked the disciples, and all of them, they are quickly to identify what others are saying. And that's the problem as a society we're having today. And I think
Mm.
this freedom becomes an issue because we're always thinking of, what are they saying about me? What are they saying? We are fixated on
Yes.
what are they saying? And Jesus returned to them and said, no, what are you saying?
You say.
And for the listener, I would ask them the same questions. What are you saying about yourself? Because Tammy
Mm-hmm.
put it very clearly. She said, Mom, whatever you put in the bucket, it comes at the bottom of the bucket. What you're saying about yourself will always express itself through your behavior, your way you react. I mean, and the reactions and the behavior we take upon this particular saying we do for ourselves
Yeah,
becomes the experience we have in life.
absolutely. Absolutely. That is so true. Your freedom ultimately rests and resides in you. You make the choice on how free you want to be. You are the author. I love that, God says he's the author and the finisher of our faith, but you are the author of your story. You decide how you want to write the rest of the book. If you don't like the chapter you're in, end it. Start a new one.
Definitely. I mean, before I came to this realization, I used to always looking for external events to either validate or use them as excuse. Or it's because of this, it's because of that, or because of them, they, and all of the stuff. And then I realized after learning this, it's about yourself. You are the authoring power of your story, as you put it. And Jesus said he said something else. He said, you know what? You will know them by their results. I always
Yeah.
ask my clients, what results are you known to? And it's not about what they know you. When the door is closed, when you're quiet by yourself, what are the results that you know yourself to be? Those
Yeah.
results, if they're not pleasant, they're not making you happy, then it's time to rewrite a new chapter. It's time to set you free from that which has kind of I have this book, it's called The Exodus Within, and I'm talking about this concept of how people are always in bondage. And I took that story as our own daily story, where we find ourselves in bondage in a place called Egypt, the Egypt of our mind. And then we have rulers like Pharaoh always giving us orders, and we are reacting to those orders. We are doing things according to the voice of Pharaoh that is sitting within us.
Yeah.
And for most people, that becomes a place that they live the rest of their lives. And some of them,
Yeah.
because they lack the courage. Because sometimes we can be comfortable with an uncomfortable situation
Absolutely.
and it happens a lot for most people where it's okay. They excuse themselves. They normalize the pain. They normalize, and so therefore they never get the opportunity to experience the freedom we're talking about. But
Right.
I
Because
would encourage everybody that this
that goes
freedom,
back to the captivity of the mind,
there
right?
you
Like
go.
that goes back to being stuck
Yeah,
in a place that you simply don't find pleasure in. But you use the excuse of, well, I've been doing this for so long. I'm used to it. And always say, why are we getting used to things that don't serve us? You should know what serves you. And
it's
if it's no longer serving you, let it go.
and I think that's what these type of conversation. I think they're very valuable to a lot of people who are willing to listen, because it makes you, if you are listening and you're like, wow, I can see myself. I've been doing this thing for quite some time. He always yells at me, and he's okay. He's just drunk. No,
Yeah.
you can't allow something that is not pleasant to continue to exist. I mean, if somebody comes in your house and they are misbehaving, or the person that you don't like, do you allow them to be there? You're always going to say, excuse me, you got to get out. A thief comes in to steal. You're not going to keep them in the house to continue to steal. That
Yeah.
which you allow in your life to continue to be there, and it steals your joy. It's no different from a physical thief who comes and take possession from you. Because we are being robbed of our joys every single day. We are being robbed of our happiness, our peace of mind, because we refuse the freedom we're talking about. We choose to be robbed, to become the victims. And it's not about blaming people, but it's just about saying, now it's time, once you start discovering it. Take the peace that is yours. Take the joy
Yes,
that is yours. Set yourself free
absolutely.
from that environment that you're sitting today that you're not pleased about.
Yeah, absolutely. This has been a great conversation, Mr. Alpha. I appreciate you joining me.
No?
If they were looking to say, you know what, I understood and resonated with him, I want to work with him, how could they reach you?
Yes, thank you very much for that opportunity. You can reach me actually on, I'm available on Facebook, and my handle there is Alpha Mshihiri. I'm sure Tammy will have some of the descriptions I'll share with her. I'm available in YouTube. I'm available in Instagram, the same handle. Uh, so most of those social medias I'm available, and special for this presentation that Tammy has been doing. For those who are listening, I have something special that when you reach out to me in any of those social media, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, I would share with you a free presentation. I have a presentation where I talk about this concept, not exactly to the context we've talked today, but it allows you to kind of start understanding how you can implement this idea of freedom, which I call it self-love in that conversation. So
Mhm.
for that, because Tammy is an amazing person, I am going to give it to you only in this particular podcast for free.
I will get the link or have something that will direct you to him for that free gift. Thank you again, Mr. Alpha. Remember, you guys, you have to love yourself so much that the love from others is a bonus because self-love is your blueprint. For all coaching needs, you know how to reach me at coaching@IamTammyNicole.com. It has been a pleasure. It's Transformation Tuesday. Remember, transform, don't stay the same.
That's a wrap on another episode of Loving Me Before I Love You. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a second to show your support by subscribing and leaving a positive rating and review on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. Stay connected with Tammy. Make sure you're following her on Instagram and TikTok at Coach Tammy Nicole. If you like to work with Tammy or have any questions you'd like her to answer, please head over to www.IamTammyNicole.com. Until next time, always remember to love yourself so much that the love from others is a bonus.